Welcome everyone. Sorry about the wait. Yeah. uh, it's been an interesting day and an interesting night for me. Um I think there's sound now. Cat Lover 33. Um so I was just I called into a live stream of a channel called The Lab. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that one here, but he's one of those channels that spin. I just never kind of laid into him yet, but and I don't plan to really. When I said that I was done with the Summer Wells thing, I meant it. But there's just one thing that's just been irking me, just picking at my brain, man, just nonstop, just gnawing at me. You know what I mean? Uh, this has been going on for a while now, and then just tonight, I called into the lab because the lab had a special guest on, and that special guest was Chris McDonough of the interview room. Okay. Um, Personally, I don't have anything against the guy. I mean what I say. I posted in community, hoping to get his attention, but I didn't get an answer to my question because I asked him a very, very simple question. And I'm not trying to blindside the guy. I'm not. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not trying to blindside Chris McDonough. And I want to be very clear about the fact that I respect the fact that he is a seasoned law enforcement officer. Okay. I have a lot of respect for law enforcement and those retired from law enforcement who have done their duty, keeping us safe every day, 24/7. That's not something to be taken for granted. I am not one of those people that would take that for granted, but I want to be very clear that I didn't get an answer to my question. I called in. Now I'm going to play you guys something that I've already played twice already. I'm going to play it again. Okay? I'm going to play it again. Sorry.
Here's a check from Audible for $1,200.
Shut up.
Here's another one for
have taken place in the last year, searched and documented. This includes the social media accounts of those associated with Summer. 3 large ground searches have taken place in the last year with the assistance of more than 100 local, state, and federal agencies.
I want to start this
Those
from the
searches
beginning.
do not account for the numerous targeted searches. Available digital evidence has been collected, searched, and documented. This includes the social media accounts of those associated with Summer. 3 large ground searches have taken place in the last year with the assistance of more than 100 local, state, and federal agencies. Those searches do not account for the numerous targeted searches done by agents and detectives as they were following up on potential leads. From TBI alone, more than 100 agents, intelligence analysts, and support staff from across the state have been involved in this case. TBI agents working alongside the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI have conducted nearly 170 interviews during the investigation. That does not count the hundreds of phone calls made to follow along.
Dude, 170 interviews.
While investigators have been diligently working to find answers, they've had to deal with thousands of tips generated by false information.
False information
has been intentionally spread across social media
platforms.
Attention of individuals across the country who genuinely care about Summer.
Exactly. Holla.
Us find answers. We appreciate those people.
Thank you.
However,
I appreciate you.
You're also aware that there are some people using this case for their own personal gain.
Personal gain.
Spreading false information on social media post as facts.
False
Some
information
go so far
post as
to
facts.
solicit donations. This has had a major impact on the investigation.
A major impact on the investigation, and not in a
We ask
good
the
way.
public not to submit tips as a result of a video they viewed on YouTube or a theory they've seen posted on Facebook. Please help us and only call if you have direct, specific information about the disappearance of Summer. This investigation weighs heavily on us all, and I can promise you that no one wants answers more than we do, and we are not going to stop until we find them. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Ronnie Lawson.
Could that be any clearer? Even though that's the third time I've played this on this channel. Chris McDonough, I hope you're listening, okay? Because we got rudely cut off. Now, maybe it was in your favor to do so, for the lab to do so. I don't know his name. And no disrespect to his channel. Honestly, I have not talked about him. I have not really, but my first impression of you, Mr. The Lab, is not positive based on how I was treated on your channel. I was respectful. I asked direct and simple questions, and I was cut off. And I thought that was, there's no other word to put it, really. It was cowardly. It was extremely cowardly. I never got an answer to my question, Chris, and I would love to respectfully invite you onto my panel, and I'll even give you, I'm not trying to throw any curveballs at you, dude. So I'm telling you, the question that was asked when I was hung up on by the lab, okay? The question that was asked was, do you think because you wear a badge that you are exempt from those social media platforms that the TBI spokeswoman was referring to? I want an answer to that question. I think that this chat deserves an answer to that question. I think your audience deserves an answer to that question. And I think that Summer deserves an answer to that question. I'm going to say that one more time. I think that Summer deserves an answer to that question. I do not care, other than my ongoing, always respect for law enforcement and what they do. But when it comes to this question, the fact that you at one point wore a badge does not make you exempt. Schedule something with me and disagree and explain why you're exempt from everyone else spinning a narrative. And this is his this was his answer when I asked him if he felt that he was part of, because I made it clear. First question I asked him was, did he see the TBI press conference? He reluctantly answered yes. He saw what was coming. He's not a dumb guy. He saw what was coming. So this way, he could not weasel out of the question that I was going to ask next, which was, did he consider himself somebody that continues to spin a narrative without any evidence? Right? Now, the thing about that is he answers really defensively. And the lab, if you're listening, I challenge you to unprivate your live so that people can, you can dispute what I'm saying, because you'll never be able to dispute what I'm saying as fact, because it is fact, but you'll never be able to dispute what I'm saying without unprivating that live so that people can hear it for themselves. So when it comes to that question, he gets defensive and he says, did you not hear Don Wells admit to molesting a 5-year-old? Blah, blah, blah. Yes, I heard it. I heard it. We all heard it. Okay. What does that have to do with Summer and her disappearance? How does that make him automatically guilty of disappearing Summer? That's what I wanted to know. As a law enforcement officer, as a former law enforcement officer, somebody who made a living collecting evidence, I wanted a legit answer to that question, and I didn't get it. I still want a legit answer to that question. From a former law enforcement officer, I would like a legit answer to that legit question. And I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, people. I don't see anybody in the chat that seems to think I'm being unreasonable. No. Gypsy Stone. I'll read your comment out loud. Live streams go to private when they end for a short time. He most likely did not put it to private. I have noticed this with many lives on all channels. You've been lied to and you swallow that bullshit because your live doesn't go to private unless you set it to private, period. I'm telling you as a creator, okay? Gypsy Stone, you are mistaken. In other words, wrong. You have to set your live to private. And I am calling the lab a coward if I am not addressed when it comes to my discussion with Chris McDonough on his channel. I mean, that's all I'm saying, right? I mean, I don't necessarily have something personal against Chris McDonough. I don't, but I'm hoping, because I actually back the blue, and I am very much in support of law enforcement, and I am very much in support of having respect for anybody who has served in law enforcement. Without law enforcement, we would not get justice for these things. But I would like to know if Chris McDonough actually thinks of himself as any different than any other YouTube channel, since he is also, if he's not the most effective, because he does have law enforcement experience. Since Chris McDonough has law enforcement experience, people listen to him more. And when you spin a narrative that two people are guilty of a crime that no one even has any evidence or knows whether or not a crime even took place, but they're guilty of a crime that nobody knows took place, if it took place. We have no idea. None of us do. Law enforcement doesn't even know. The law enforcement investigators that are charged with the responsibility of finding Summer don't even know. So how does Chris McDonough know? And I want a legit answer to that question. How do you know? No, because I want to be wrong about the guy. Like, I really do. I the fact that he carried a badge at one point, I want to be wrong about him. But my opinion currently about this man is that he is a YouTube grifter. Somebody who set his chat at members only after he interviewed Hunter and played that interview. After he edited it and premiered it. When he premiered it, it was set to members only. And I want to know if he's out to help law enforcement bring justice for Summer and whatever happened to her. I'd like to know, because I don't believe so at the moment. I truly do not believe so at the moment. And I want to be proven wrong. I just want to be proven wrong, Chris. Give me that faith back. in law enforcement. Because I'd like to know, I got cut off. I got hung up on when I asked a very simple question. Do you think that because you at one point wore a badge that you are any different than these other YouTube creators that the TBI was talking about in their press conference? I'd like an answer to that question. I think that everyone deserves an answer to that question. Not just me. I think your listeners deserve an answer to that question. Are you working alongside the TBI and the Hawkins County Sheriff's Department? Because I would think that if you were, you wouldn't be as loud as you are. No, yeah, Petty Patty. I do not expect a response. I do not expect this person to actually have the guts to come on my panel and discuss this with me. I do not believe that. The fact that I was hung up on the lab room and then that was privated, that live was set to private, tells me everything that I need to know about these people. It tells me, A, that they're too cowardly to confront me. B, that they have no convictions behind what they're doing because they know I'm right. And C, repeating myself, it's because they know I'm right. They know I'm not wrong. They know that everything that I'm throwing at them right now are valid accusations. Oh, Kathy, 117. But I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if he's even said it. But, you know, wouldn't he say that he was working alongside them because he's an ex-cop, he has contacts and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. I call bullshit, man. I call bullshit. It's what it boils down to. I call absolute 100% bullshit that Chris McDonough is any different than Bullhorn Betty. I think he's no different. The only difference between the two of them is that one once had a badge. Murica, I agree. I mean, that's what makes it worse. I think that having a badge once, when you're doing the same exact thing as somebody as fucked up as Bullhorn Betty does, if you're doing the same shit that she's doing, but you once wore a badge, you're more dangerous. Because for some reason that builds your credibility. Well, not for some reason, for obvious reasons. It builds your credibility because at one point you were a law enforcement officer. You have all this experience. You have all this knowledge. But that is what makes what you're doing worse than anyone else because you have that experience. And for some reason, you're setting an example that makes it okay to judge people on a crime that we don't even know took place. And if you're right, you're right. You know, it's just that we got to wait and see. But you're doing what you're doing. I don't see how that is not exactly what the TBI was referring to. You're spinning a narrative on your channel that Don and Candace are guilty of a crime that we don't even know took place. You're spinning that narrative based, and your justification for doing so on that phone call that I had with you, your justification for doing so was that Don had admitted to being a child molester. Okay, sure. Got it. But how does that make him guilty of what happened to Summer? Because I would think that as a former law enforcement officer, you would connect the evidence. You would say, okay, this connects to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, right? But you haven't done that. So you're setting this example like that, that, because somebody was a child molester, well, then they must have actually disappeared their daughter. No, not necessarily. Does it make them likely? A little more, sure. A little more, I'll give you that. Sure. But being a former law enforcement officer, I would think that you would be more focused on the actual evidence. You would be the responsible one that would say, hey, just because this took place, it does not mean that this crime that we don't even know took place. No, I mean, it's fine. I'm willing to entertain Don being a child molester. Fine. But there's no evidence to dictate that something happened to Summer at Don's hands. There's no evidence to dictate this yet. And if there is, fine, so be it. But there isn't. Not yet, at least. Right? Why doesn't a law enforcement officer with a YouTube channel reiterate this? Why don't they express this loudly? You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be the responsible thing to do? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't even be talking about this if the TBI had not made that press conference and pointed that out. It's the truth. I've never leaned into Chris McDonough. I've never done it. But wouldn't I be somewhat of a hypocrite if I didn't call him out? If I called Bullhorn Betty out, but I didn't call this guy out? The reason why I'm more obligated to call him out is the same reason why I would be remiss, why I would be, sorry, not remiss, but reluctant to call him out, because he was once a law enforcement officer. That's why I would be reluctant. But at the same time, I'm more obligated because he's more obligated to set a better example, in my opinion. Oh, Hippiporium, you were there? You heard it? I mean, right. I didn't want to scare him off. And it was really funny because I wanted to really make sure that I delivered the question in a respectful manner. And it was the question itself. Doing that proved to me, because I was testing it for my own self, but wording it that way and being respectful, it proved to me that it was not the way that I delivered the question, but it was the question itself that made the lab hang up on me in front of his own chat. Because I asked a very legitimate question. I asked Chris McDonough a very legitimate question in a very respectful manner, and I was cut off. And I don't blame Chris for it. That's why I'm asking him. That's why I'm doing this live right now, basically saying, come on my panel and dispute anything that I'm saying. I won't be disrespectful. I won't be mean. I won't say, I won't insult you. I have too much respect for the fact that you were once a law enforcement officer. I have too much respect for the justice that you have brought many. That is absolutely 100% true and from the heart. I have too much respect for you in that sense. But I blame the lab for hanging up the phone. I feel like you wanted to answer me, Chris. I feel like you wanted to answer me. So I am respectfully asking you to join me on this channel and answer that question. You didn't hang up on me. He did. And he put that video on private. Absolutely. And I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about the lab. I want to be wrong about Chris. I want to be wrong. But until the lab unprivates that and Chris McDonough actually answers my question in a man-to-man conversation, I'm going to feel like they are cowards. And I was absolutely right about the fact that Chris McDonough has exploited Summer Wells more than any other YouTube creator if we're talking about the income that was brought in. I'm going to say that one more time so that it's not misunderstood. I believe that Chris McDonough has exploited Summer Wells more than any other YouTube creator. If we're talking about financial measure. I hope I'm not misunderstood, because I would love for the chance. I would love to give Chris the opportunity to deny this and give a valid explanation as to why I'm wrong. And I think that you used the fact that you were a law enforcement officer, Chris. I want to be clear about this too, so that there's no misunderstandings. I think the fact that you at one point had a badge, you've used that to exploit Summer. That was your best tool, was the fact that you were once a law enforcement officer, and that has given you the free reign to exploit Summer to its maximum. I don't believe I've misspoke. So Cherry, do what you got to do, girl. Do what you got to do. I'm just glad you're here. Because, yeah, I realize I'm going to be attracting some people who don't really agree with me. And that's fine. That's fine. You're welcome here. You're allowed to be here and disagree. Absolutely. As much as Chris is welcome on my panel. He's allowed in my chat. Any Chris supporters are allowed in my chat as well. As long as you don't get, personal and terrible. You know what I mean? But you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to have it in my chat. I promise you. You're okay. I promise. Yeah. So before I want to be clear about this too. Before I cut myself off from this community completely, this was just something that was hanging there. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to put that. This was something that was just hanging there. And I couldn't leave it alone without addressing it. I can't leave this community without addressing Chris McDonough directly. And I thought I did that. I thought I had a fair playing field with the lab, but it turns out that I didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and call out the lab and say that what you did was cowardly by hanging up on me the way that you did. I don't know much of your content, but and I think you got a really good looking setup, by the way. But What you did was cowardly. It was, I don't know if you're actually a coward or not, but what you did was absolutely cowardly by hanging up the phone and deflecting, taking that bullet for for Chris McDonough, for lack of a better term. So yeah, I just tragedy, pimps exposed. Glare, would you really leave this community? Absolutely. 100%. I've never been more disappointed in my life. Tragedy, pimps exposed. I've never been more disappointed in my life. This is a missing child who could still be alive somewhere, and people are holding vigils and talking about her like she's already dead. People are accusing other people without any evidence, simply because they don't approve of their lifestyle or what type of people they are. And that's fine. You can have opinions about people, but having a negative opinion about somebody and then even having evidence that your opinions of them are justified as far as them being people that you don't respect, fair, fine. Because there is evidence of that. Sure. But there's no evidence that they did anything to their daughter. There's not yet. Maybe there will be, but there's not yet. And since there's not yet, if you're spinning a narrative that there is, well, then you're a part of a problem that the TBI was pointing out in their press conference. You are fucking up their investigation, and an ex-cop should fucking know better. I'm going to say that one more time. You are fucking up an investigation, and an ex-cop should fucking know better. Dogs with Jobs. Okay. Dogs with Jobs is saying that I was very rude. Let's see how rude I was. Let the lab play that, unprivate it. Because if I was so rude, then he wouldn't have privated it, would he? He would have made me look like a fool for content. For more views, for more clicks, he would have left it up for content. And I wasn't there to answer Chris's questions. And the one question that he did ask, by the way, I answered. He said, did I or did I not hear that Dawn admitted to molesting a 5-year-old child? Okay. But then I asked him, what does that have to do with Summer's disappearance? What evidence do you have? He wouldn't answer. He won't answer. I guarantee it. Chris McDonough's badge is ironically fucking up this investigation. That's a fact. That's a fact. Because he has a badge, more people are listening to him. More people are spinning narratives. Therefore, more people are calling the TBI hotline and giving false leads and wasting resources. Do you understand? The glare. Glad you called CM out showing how he is. That's why you were hung up on and live privated. He's a grifter. Ellie exposed CM2. He's dangerous to community because he uses his ex profession for people to believe him. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I would like, because I have respect for Chris's experience, I would like to give him the opportunity to prove me wrong. because I want to be clear, I am in no way trash talking law enforcement. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking on their behalf. I am not speaking negatively about law enforcement. I'm speaking negatively about a YouTube creator who uses the fact that he was once law enforcement for credibility in order to spin a narrative and do exactly what the TBI was saying for YouTubers and social media people to not do. That's what I'm saying. Oh, I know, Kate McLeod. I know. But I'm giving him the opportunity to prove me wrong. I would like him to prove me wrong. I mean, I'm just some fucking loser, right? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's going to own me on a YouTube stream. He's going to make me out to be he's going to wipe the floor with me. I guarantee it. When all I just simply want is an answer to a question that I never got. I was cheated out of the answer to that question. Y'all in the comments are killing me right now. But law enforcement has a choice on whether they actually show up to enforce and shame a person. Look, this isn't okay. This isn't a let's defund the police and trash the police kind of thing, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to discuss whether the police are wrong in this or right in that. As a matter of fact, I 100% support the police. I understand that there are people within the police force that are simply people and are capable of being bad people. I understand that this takes place, but I don't think that speaks for the entire concept of the police in the first place. Until we're the type of people, until we are at a stage, because this is the thing, is being a somewhat of a libertarian. I don't like the fact that we depend on the police. That's the truth. Personally, I feel like my dream come true would be that we reach a stage in our society to where we don't need police. We can police ourselves and police each other. You see somebody getting into trouble right next to you, well, then you put your phone down and quit filming it, and then you help them out. I want to get to that point to where that's natural for every single person. I realize it's a pipe dream that probably will never happen. But until we get to that point, we need cops. We just do. Until it becomes human nature to just be fight and not flight, because we are a fight or flight society. But until we come to a point to where it is just nature for us to just simply be fight, all of us, individually, all of us, collectively, then we need cops. We need cops. There's no other way around that. And so, since we need cops, I feel it's, the concept of the police officer should be supported. Each individual person should be held accountable to live up to the standard that we hold for cops. But I believe that we need cops, and God bless those who put on a uniform or put on a badge and a sidearm and get out there and defend my freedom and my safety. God bless every single one of them. But as far as the Summer Wells case goes, that doesn't exempt you from the responsibility of you being the same as other YouTube creators that the TBI was talking about. Just because you at one point wore a badge, you're not exempt from that. I think I said everything I needed to say. I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. I love you very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends. Chris, my invite is still out there. My community post is going to stay up. So I would love for you to come up with an explanation as to why I'm wrong about you. But I'm going to take you not answering me as being right. Because why wouldn't you defend yourself? If you're the spokesperson for justice, by having wore a badge at one point, I would love to hear your defense and what makes you different than Bullhorn Betty or Molly Golightly, or, besides the fact that you once wore a badge. Besides that, I'd like to know what makes you different. Y'all are mean in the chat, man. Y'all are mean. Good night, Heels in the Air. Guys, subscribe to Heels in the Air. She's a great clip channel. Yeah, all these people. Absolutely. Anyways, guys, I love you. We will do this again very soon, my friends.